Let the day fall away now. Let your shoulders soften. Let your breath move in and out, like gentle waves against an old harbor wall. There is nothing left to do right now. No hurry, no noise, just stillness, and a little story to drift into. Close your eyes if you haven't already, and imagine cool cobblestones beneath your feet, the scent of wood smoke and old lantern oil on the breeze, and a village. A quiet, slumbering village nestled beneath the misty cloak of early evening. Our story tonight begins as the last light slips from the sky. In the village of Moreau's Hollow, tucked between the moors and the sleepy forest, the night began with a ritual. Not one shouted or sung, not painted or carved, but one walked and walked. You see, Moreau's Hollow had a lantern keeper. His name was Osric, a thin man, not tall, not young, but with a back that still stood straight and eyes that had grown used to twilight. Each evening, when the bell in the chapel rang for the 6th time, Osric would rise from his small wooden stool, take the long-handled brass lantern pole from the hearth corner, and step into the dusk. The village children called him the Glimmer Man. They would watch from windows as his shape passed slowly by, followed by small halos of flickering orange, as he lit the street lanterns one by one. Tonight the air was especially still, the kind of still that held stories, that made your footsteps sound louder than they were, that made even the owls hush. Osric's boots met the first stretch of stone path. With each step, his own lantern clinked lightly against his belt, a soft, rhythmic music he'd grown to love. He passed the baker's shop, then the little bridge over the stream, and there just at the edge of the square stood the first post. Old iron, painted black, with a curved hook at the top and a dusty glass lantern hanging patiently like a sleepy eye. Osric reached into his coat, pulled out the tiny striker, and with a FSSSS-TA kiss of sparks, the lantern bloomed with a golden glow. It flared, then softened, its flame dancing inside the glass like a tame spirit. He smiled. That was the first. Now there were 19 to go. You might be wondering, why light lanterns when most folks are asleep? Ah, but in medieval villages like Moreau's Hollow, lanterns were more than just light. They were a promise that someone was watching, that the paths were safe, that no traveler or tinker or lost child would wander in darkness. Lantern keepers, once called watchmen of the glow, were entrusted with that peace. They knew every stone, every alley turn, every window that creaked in the wind, and Osric. Osric had been doing it for nearly 30 years. Some said he'd grown up with the streets. Some said he spoke to the lamps like they were old friends. And maybe, some soft, small way, they spoke back. The second post stood outside the weaver's cottage. The shutters were drawn. But inside, Osric could hear the low hum of spinning wheels. Perhaps they worked late, or perhaps, like him, they found comfort in the rhythm of old things. He lit the lantern. It glowed, reflecting soft orange across the puddles. Somewhere nearby, a frog chirped. The smell of damp moss filled the air. By the 5th post, just near the ivy-covered bell tower, Osric paused. He always did, here. This was where he first met her, Elwyn. She had been a baker's apprentice, her hands dusted with flour, her laugh like warm bread breaking. It had been a long time since she passed, but tonight, he thought he could almost hear her footsteps beside his own. He lit the lantern gently and moved on.
Ow.
Street by street, glow by glow, Moreau's Hollow was softly stitched together by warm halos of light. The cats watched from rooftops. A sleepy goat in the carpenter's yard gave a quiet bleat, and in one high window a little girl waved sleepily, clutching a wool doll in her arms. Osric tipped his cap. The doll had once belonged to her mother. He remembered lighting lanterns for her too. And now, my dear listener, as Osric rounds the far edge of the village where the cobbles fade into grassy paths, and the woods lean in close with ancient hush, let yourself breathe deeper. Feel the glow of each lantern as if it were lit just for you. One by one, they light the path behind him, a trail of warmth against the soft arms of night. And in your mind's eye, you follow him still. Slow, gentle steps, the clink of glass, faint rustle of wind in the thatch. You're safe here. you're warm. And there are many more lanterns to light. Let your shoulders soften again. Let the glow of Osric's lanterns trail gently behind your thoughts. Feel your breath fall into that slow rhythm like a rocking boat upon a still lake. There's no rush. Only this. Only now. And the soft footsteps of our lantern keeper guiding us deeper into a world wrapped in dusk. Our story continues. By the 9th post, Osric had made his way to the edge of the orchard. Here the trees bent like whispering elders, their branches brushing low over the stone path, carved by generations of soles and hooves and wooden wheels. The air smelled of old apples and rain. The wind, so soft it barely stirred a leaf, carried with it a sound, not quite a whistle, not quite a voice, but something between. Osric paused. He knew this sound. Years ago, a fox had made its den beneath the hedgerow. When her kits were born, they would chirp like birds in the night, calling for warmth, for closeness. He had listened from this very path, lantern in hand. Art open tonight, there were no kits. But the memory lived. He reached up, gently tipping the flame into the next lantern's belly. It flared, then settled into a soft pulse. Like a heartbeat in the trees, Osric smiled. Each lantern he lit now felt like an old friend. Some leaned to one side bent by the years. Others were nearly swallowed in ivy. Few had cracked glass from long-forgotten storms, but none were ever skipped. Osric knew their names. Well, not names like you or I might have, but names in feeling. The one near the well was steady, as the one outside the cooper's shed. Whisper, and the twisted one with a crooked hook. He called that one Elwyn's laugh. No one knew but him. And the lamps, of course. Further on, past the granary with its sagging beams and scattered hay, came the part of the route that few villagers ever walked. The north path. It wasn't haunted, not truly, but people said it had a feeling to it, as if time moved differently there, as if each step pulled you slightly deeper into the past. Osric didn't mind. In fact, he cherished this stretch most of all. The wild herbs grew freely along the edges, sage and mugwort, tansy and thyme. In spring, the path shimmered with violets. And in winter, snow clung here longer than anywhere else. Like it too, wanted to linger. As he approached the 11th post, Osric slowed. This one had once been lost to ivy. It had taken him 3 evenings and a dull knife to clear the vines without breaking the lantern's arm. Now it stood proud again, straight, strong. He lit the flame, and in the warm light, the ivy leaves seemed to bow in thanks. Do you know, dear listener? In the Middle Ages, there were entire guilds dedicated to the keeping of time by light. In some towns, the night-watchman was tasked not just with lanterns, but with the ringing of bells at each hour, the marking of tides, the pacing of prayers. Time was not measured in minutes or hours, but in songs, in shadows, in candle drip and coal glow. It's in the length of a psalm, the number of stars overhead. Osric thought of that sometimes, that in this life, this round he walked, he, too, was keeping time, not with clocks or bells, but with footsteps, with memory, with the hush of a village held gently in hand. At the 13th lantern, something unusual happened. The flame refused to catch. He tried once, twice, still nothing. He held the flint closer, shielding it with his palm. The spark came, and yet the wick remained dark. Osric narrowed his eyes, then smiled faintly. This lantern, it had always been stubborn. "Ah, you old mule," he murmured softly. "You always did like a little extra charm." And with that, he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a tiny vial of oil, infused with lavender and sage. A gift from the village herbalist years ago, when her daughter had been born on the winter solstice. "A drop in the stubborn ones," she'd told him. "It calms even iron hearts." He drizzled a little onto the wick. "Try it again." FSSST. The flame leaped like a dancer. Settled, glowed. "There you are," he whispered, and not a minute too soon. He touched the side of the lantern gently, like patting the shoulder of an old friend. "You're safe here." Drifting through the evening beside Osric, each flame another heartbeat, each lantern another memory. The path behind glowing softly, like a string of dreams lit just for you. And now, we follow him toward the last stretch of his round. Just a few more to go, just a few more stories, tucked into the cracks of the walls, the flicker of flame, the hush of moss between the stones. And as Osric walks, you walk too, in warmth, in peace, in the gentle glow of night made kind. At lantern post 14, the village dogs had begun their dreaming. From a shuttered window above the cobbled square, Osric heard the soft thwomp of a pup shifting in its sleep, followed by a tiny yip, some dream of chasing geese or tumbling through orchard leaves. Osric smiled. Lantern light, he always believed, was for more than human eyes. It was for foxes creeping gently through hedges, for barn owls gliding above the thatched roofs, for mice navigating the grain store, and why, yes, for dreaming dogs. He tipped the lantern carefully toward the wick. A small puff of flame curled upward, reflecting in a puddle just below, rippling with each flicker. Lantern 14. Lit. He paused just a moment longer, his fingers resting on the handle, his gaze soft with memory. This lantern had once been shattered in a winter storm. The wind had come so strong, it ripped the iron bracket from the stone wall. Osric had found the glass in shards, scattered across the snow like fallen stars. But he had repaired it, piece by piece. Glass from the glazier, metal from the smith, patience from somewhere deeper, and now it shone again, stronger than before, wiser somehow. Lanterns were like people, he thought. They broke, they mended, they shone. Further down the lane, past the bakery with its warm-smelling stones, came the place where three roads met. The lantern here hung on a wrought iron pole, twisting like ivy toward the sky. It was one of the oldest in the village, older even than Osric. They called it the branch light, 'cause in the days before proper posts, villagers would hang a lit branch dipped in oil from the same spot to help travelers find the right path after dusk. 3 roads, 3 choices, and one light to guide them all. Osric always lingered here. He would lean against the post, watching the gentle fork of each lane stretch off into the dark. To the west, the road to the river and the fishing huts. To the south, the woodcutter's path, winding through tall pine. To the east, the rise toward the chapel, and the oldest part of Marrow's Hollow. He didn't need to go down them anymore. Round stayed to the village proper. But still, he remembered. Long ago, in winters gone, he had walked every path. To bring light, to keep watch, to stand as the village slept, he struck the flame, lit the branch light. It glowed more golden than any other, as if holding the warmth of all the choices ever made beneath its post. Back then, in the days of night-watchmen, their duties stretched far beyond lighting lanterns. They checked shutters. They whispered prayers. They watched for fire and for mischief, and for the slow creak of danger. Each carried a clapper or a rattle, used to sound alarms if needed. Others bore long staffs, or bells, to mark the passing of ours. They were memory keepers, sentinels of quiet. Osric thought often of the men who walked before him. How many feet had passed these same stones? How many boots had echoed in the hush before dawn? He lit his path with more than oil and wick. He lit it with remembrance. At the 16th lantern, just behind the old dye house, the air smelled faintly of moss and iron, even now. Years after it closed, the walls were stained in deep blues and earthy browns, colors that never truly faded. This had once been the place where wool was steeped in madder root, where linen was plunged into indigo vats. The dye master, old Tomas, had known every plant from field to tub. Osric could still hear him. Color, he used to say, is the soul of cloth. No one wants to be buried in gray. That made Osric laugh now, softly under his breath. He lit the lantern beside the shuttered doorway, and for a moment cast a shadow that looked exactly like Tomas, tall with a bent back and arms stained red to the elbows. Osric nodded to the shadow, a little salute, for old time's sake. Then he turned toward lantern 17, as you drift beside Osric now. Let your breath settle into the rhythm of his steps. Feel the cobbles underfoot not cold, but cool and grounded. Let the lantern glow spill gently across your imagination, coloring the world in honey light. Each post lit is another soft sigh of the world falling asleep, another hush carried into the corners of the night. You are part of that peace now, a flicker in the calm, a dream walking. Lantern 17 sat beside the smallest house in Marrow's Hollow. A widow lived there, though Osric had not seen her in many years. She no longer came to market, no longer swept her step, but always. Without fail, the curtain twitched when he passed. Tonight was no different. The light inside her cottage had long gone out, but as Osric approached, he saw just the smallest movement of lace in the window. And then, stillness. He struck his flint. The lantern sparked, and a warm pool of gold spread out across the cottage stones. He held the flame there longer than usual, just a little extra glow for the quiet ones. For the watchers who didn't want to be seen, there are only 2 lanterns left tonight. 2 more pools of light in the hush, but don't worry, we are in no rush. The world turns gently. The sky watches kindly, and the flame keeps us company. Close your eyes if you like. Imagine the next post, rising ahead. Stone and iron and soot. A lantern waiting to be woken. Osric walks slowly now. The air is beginning to smell of smoke. Somewhere nearby, a hearth has been stoked again, and the scent of burning oak drifts through the village like a lullaby. Lantern 18 lived on the edge of the village green. It stood near a wooden bench worn smooth by seasons, its arms polished by generations of elbows, its slats softened by the curve of countless backs. Osric often rested there. Tonight, the bench was empty, save for a scattering of leaves curled like tiny boats, gathered by the wind in quiet ceremony. He paused, let the lantern rest in the crook of his arm, then sat. Just for a moment, the kind of moment that stretched time, where the night didn't rush, where the stars held their breath, and even the crickets sang a slower song. Across the green, the trees whispered, bare branches brushing sky like feathered quills across a darkened page. A nightbird called. Somewhere far off, a horse shifted in its stable, hooves clicking gently on packed straw. Osric closed his eyes. The night air carried the scent of frost and old apples. Faint wood smoke drifted past, mingling with the memory of roasted chestnuts, cider, of long-ago laughter from Candlemas feasts. He struck the flint, lit the lantern, and with it the whole green seemed to hush in thanks. A soft bowl of light in the open dark, a hush between heartbeats. As he rose again, Osric's knees crackled softly, a language only older bones speak, but he smiled. It's a kind of smile that's not seen but felt, like a warm blanket tucked just so beneath your chin. He turned toward the final post. Lantern 19. The last one. It sat alone on a hill just outside the village walls, a marker, a promise. It had been placed there not for villagers, but for travelers. A welcome home, or a gentle guide to those arriving late from the forest road. It had once been tended by the bellman, a younger man, now long gone. Osric took up the duty without complaint. Some lights should never be forgotten. He made his way toward it, the ground sloped gently beneath his feet. Here, the cobbles gave way to packed earth. The wind moved more freely, brushing his cloak, tugging at his hood, carrying with it the scent of pine and damp moss. Above him the stars had begun to gather, thick as spilled salt across a black table. The moon, still rising, painted the tops of trees in silver. Osric's lantern, still burning, swayed with his step, a small, golden star among the larger ones. When he reached the final post, he paused once more. He touched the wood, ran his hand along the smooth groove left by time and touch, then gently hung the last lantern in place, struck the flint, and with one final hiss and flare, the light took. A flame to watch the road, a glow for the wanderer. He stood there a long while, letting the breeze cool his cheeks, letting the silence settle deeper. And then, from down the path, came the smallest sound. A step, a creak, the crunch of gravel. Someone walking. Not many passed this way after nightfall. Osric's hand moved softly to the base of his lantern pole. Not in fear, but in old habit, he waited. And from the shadows emerged a boy, perhaps 10, cloaked in wool too large for him, pack slung awkwardly over one shoulder, boots muddy from the road. The boy looked up at Osric wide-eyed, tired but unafraid. "You're the lantern man," he said. Osric nodded. "I suppose I am. My mum told me about you. Said if I ever got turned around I should follow the lights. And did you?" The boy pointed back toward the lane. I counted. All 19. Osric's heart warmed, not with pride, but something deeper. The feeling of being part of something. A thread in the great cloth. "Where are you headed, lad?" he asked softly. My uncle's past the mill. Past the mill, Mum's sick. She said I'd be safe there. Osric nodded again. He reached into his cloak and pulled free a smaller lantern, one he carried as a spare. He lit it carefully, then bent down, offering it to the boy. Take this. It'll guide your steps. The boy hesitated. Will I bring it back? When the stars next change, Osric smiled. Lanterns know their way home. The boy clutched it with both hands. Golden light spilled upward onto his cheeks, painting his face in peace. Thank you, he whispered. Then with a nod he turned, walked toward the trees, toward the mill, toward tomorrow. Osric watched until the glow disappeared. Then he turned back toward the village. The path felt lighter now, the night kinder. Each lantern he passed hummed softly in the dark, like a lullaby carried on the breath of time. The round was done, but the glow remained. Breathe gently now. Let the flame stay with you, even as your eyes grow heavier. Let the hush of the cobbled streets and the warm flicker of each light guide you deeper into calm. The village is quiet now. The keeper is home. And the night is yours. It was late now, at velvet kind of late, where the wind forgets to whisper, and even the owls have closed their eyes. But within the lantern keeper's cottage, a small, stone place, nestled beneath the old elm, a single light still flickered. It came from Osric's hearth. Small flame, not much larger than the lantern he'd just carried home. It cast soft amber shadows on the low beams above, and glinted on the iron hook where his coat now hung, still damp with mist. Osric stood beside the fire for a moment, unhurried, still wrapped in his woolen cloak, still smelling of lantern oil, frost, and pine. He removed his boots with a quiet grunt, placing them by the door in their usual place, toes pointed neatly toward morning. Then, with the slow grace of a man long practiced in solitude, he moved toward a small wooden box tucked beneath the hearthstones. The box was old. Older than him, perhaps. Its hinges worn silver with touch, its lid carved with the faint image of a rising sun. He lifted it carefully, and inside, a key. Simple, iron, warmed now by the firelight. Beside it lay a folded cloth. The color of winter sky, just before snow. He didn't touch the cloth, not tonight. But the key he took in hand, let it rest against his palm. And for a long moment, he stood like that, just standing, listening to the pop of the fire, feeling the slow thrum of his own heartbeat, noticing perhaps the way the wind had quieted altogether outside. Then he turned, moved toward the back of the cottage. There, beyond the tiny table and the stone basin where he washed each morning, stood a door. One most in the village didn't know existed, narrow, arched like a chapel window. Not a grand door, but a waiting one. Osric slid the key into the iron lock. It turned with a sound soft as breath, and the door opened inward. Beyond it, stairs worn smooth by centuries, curved like the shell of a sleeping snail. Down they went, into the belly of the hill. And with each step he took, the air grew cooler. Not cold, just still, like a deep cellar or a memory. The lantern he carried lit the stones before him in golden circles. The shadows it cast followed behind, obedient. At the bottom of the stairs he paused. Here, beneath the village itself, lay the vault, not of gold, not of silver, but of stories, you see. Long ago, in the time of kings and whispers, lantern keepers were more than watchmen. They were memory holders, guardians of lore too fragile for ink, too old for books, too quiet for song. They kept it in flame, and they kept it down here. Osric stepped forward. Rows of shelves emerged in the glow of his lantern, each stacked with old soot-darkened jars. Every jar held a wick, and every wick a name. Not names of people, names of events. First snowfall on St. Brevin's Day. The night the oak, cried Sap. The evening all the lamps went out. He moved slowly now, past shelves and stone, past the stillness of time pressed between wax and air. And then he reached the end of the room, where a single pedestal stood. On it an unlit lantern. The keeper's lantern. Never taken above ground. Never lit unless the story it guarded was ready to be told again. He He touched its side gently. The metal still held the warmth of the last hand to light it, his father's hand, and before that his grandmother's. Now, perhaps his own, but not tonight. Tonight was not for lighting. Tonight was for listening. He sat right there on the smooth flagstone floor, set his lantern down, let it glow beside him. And for a long time, he said nothing. He just listened to the breath of stone, to the memory of wicks that had burned before him, to the stories tucked in soot and sealed with silence. Above him, the village slept. Below, the keepers kept. And Osric, one more thread in that old, enduring tapestry, closed his eyes and let the warmth of memory settle around him, soft as candlelight, still as snowfall. A hush between the hours, a promise that nothing truly fades. So long as there is someone to light the last lantern, let yourself breathe now, slow and steady. The stairs behind him remain lit just enough. And above, the lamps still burn. The bench waits. The road glows gently at the edge of the trees. All is quiet, and quiet, safe. You are safe here. Let your shoulders rest. Let your eyes soften. Your breath drift low like a feather floating to earth. The story continues. The stairway behind Osric was long, but when he climbed again, he did so slowly, as if carrying something invisible. And in a way, he was. Memory is heavier than most things, heavier than iron, heavier than time. By the time he reached the upper door, his legs ached in the quiet, familiar way that spoke of age and devotion. He slid the key back from the lock, but instead of returning it to the box, he held it. Held it as he moved to the window. The frost had begun to settle on the edges of the glass, tiny silver feathers tracing the lead lines. Through the shimmer, he saw his village, still quiet, still glowing, each lantern a little orb of firelight, keeping the night from becoming too large, too empty. And as he stood there, he remembered. Not a tale from the vault, but a night from long ago. He had been a boy perhaps just a little older than the one who walked to his uncle's house now. And it had been his very first winter helping his grandfather light the lamps. He remembered the way the cold had stung his nose, and how the oil had smelled sharp and metallic in the little tin pail. He remembered the hush, not the quiet of fear, but the soft, thick silence that only comes in snow. And he remembered how his grandfather, old Garrus, had turned to him on Lantern 12 and said in a voice deep as mulled wine, "Every flame is a story, lad. You light it with your hand, but you carry it with your heart." At the time, Osric hadn't fully understood. But now, standing in the same window where Garrus once stood, key in one hand, heart full of quiet fire, he understood. He moved through the cottage, set the key gently on the mantel, poured water from a jug into a clay cup, drank slowly, letting each swallow echo with the calm of midnight. Outside, a breeze stirred, the kind that carried the faintest scent of frost-blown thyme and worn leather. Old roads and older shoes. He opened the back door of the cottage, stepped into the stillness of the garden. There, behind the stone wall, his herbs slept beneath straw blankets. The rosemary curled, the sage wrapped in pale wool cloth. He walked among them, his lantern high and steady. Its glow revealed frost-laced leaves, and the silent footprints of a fox who had passed before him. And then he reached the edge of the hedge, where an old iron post stood, once used to hang herbs for drying, now a resting place for something different. A second lantern, smaller, well-worn. But it too had a name. Lantern Zero, the children sometimes called it. But Garrus had once told him its real name, the flame that remembers. Osric took it down gently. It was cold in his hands, not because it had been forgotten, but because it had not been lit in many years. It was meant to burn only when a story needed reminding, only when something important had started to fade from memory. He opened it. Inside, a candle. Not wax, but a tightly wound bundle of dried lavender, rose hips, and sage. A remembrance flame. He struck his flint once. Twice, the flame caught, and instantly the air changed. The garden seemed to breathe deeper, a hedge rustled with knowing. And far in the village, one or two dogs stirred, not barking, just turning, as if shifting toward, something familiar and far away. Osric stood with the flame in hand, feeling it glow through him. And softly, almost beneath his breath, he began to speak. It's not loudly, not with ceremony, but with the kind of voice used only for stories told by hearths. Long ago, he whispered, before the bells were hung, before the cobbles were laid, before the stones of the church were pulled from the river bank, there was still a light. He turned slightly, faced toward the east toward the old forest line. Before even the name of this village was carved into the town ledger, there were watchfires, tended by those who stayed awake while others dreamed. Not guards, not soldiers, but watchers. And with each night they tended, they passed down their own kind of memory. Not written, not sung, but lit. The first lantern, he whispered, was not hung on a post, but placed on the earth. A moment passed, the flame flickered. He continued, and it was placed there not to see with, but to remind that no matter how dark the woods, someone was always watching. Osric lifted the lantern high, then slowly, reverently, he walked to the low stone wall that bordered his garden and set the flame there, facing the trees, facing the road, letting its glow carry forward. He stood beside it a long while, and above him the stars seemed to shift, their silver shapes turning like the pages of a book. He closed his eyes, listened to the fire, and to the village behind him wrapped in sleep, then slowly turned toward the door, toward rest, toward the hush of a woolen blanket and the creak of old floorboards. But the flame remained, as it always had. Let your breath follow the quiet now. You are warm here. You are part of the story. The flame remembers. You are not forgotten. Ease your shoulders. Sink deeper into comfort. Feel the quiet breeze from the open window, soft and still.
Ow.
Our story tonight continues. The cottage's wooden floor creaked softly beneath Osric's steps. Each bore a familiar note in the melody of home. He carried the remembrance flame in one hand, the key still held gently in the other. Each breath was a slow exhale, like lantern smoke drifting toward the rafters. He reached the hearthroom, where embers still glowed golden red. The fire had not died entirely, but it slept, waiting for the first whispers of dawn. Osric placed the flame and the key carefully upon the mantel. The lavender sage candle crackled softly, its fragrance weaving into the smoky warmth of the hearth. He lit a small candle beside it. Stone melted into melted glow. Tonight, he was not just lantern keeper. He was keeper of memory, a guardian of stories and lights. He sat in the old armchair, its fabric threadbare, its arms forever molded to the shape of love and time. The lamp cast dancing shadows on the walls, shadows that looked like old companions, flickering in gratitude for the flame. Outside, the wind sighed. Long, contented breaths among eaves and roof tiles. A single owl hooted far off. Footsteps of midnight creatures rustled in distant fields. Closed his eyes, he listened to the pulse of the night, the soft drip of melted candle wax, the click of flint as he stoked the remembrance flame earlier, the slow crackle of sleeping logs. Each sound was a soft stitch in the quilt of the night. And within that quilt, he felt warmth, not just in flame, but in promise. A promise that no story, even one spoken softly into the dark, would vanish. He opened his eyes again, hand reached and touched the key once more. Memory had weight. Even as the candlelight played across his knuckles, something stirred deep within him. He rose slowly, moved to the window. The lanterns outside still glowed. Rows of orbs, 19 guarding, streets and dreamers. Some nights, people forgot. Forgot the man who carried oil and matches. Forgot the care taken. Forgot the heart. But the lantern's faithful lights remembered. They remembered the touch of his fingers, the softness of his resolve. A breeze stirred the curtain. Moonlight spilled onto the floor. Osric watched, breathing slowly, held the moment. Behind him, a faint noise. A soft knock. He turned. Small shapes stood in the doorway. The boy's silhouette once more. But this time, it was the boy's mother. Eyes red from worry turned soft at the sight of Osric. She stepped forward, clutched the spare lantern. I saw him come safe, she whispered, and I came to thank you. Osric nodded gently. No words large or grand, just presence, warmth, care. Their gratitude lived in the hush. The mother looked at Osric's remembrance flame, then to the mantle, the key. Does this, she began. Osric shook his head. It remembers us all, but it needs no thanks. She smiled, relief and wonder mingled in her eyes. May it always burn, she whispered, and it would. They left quietly. Osric remained by the window, all of silent comfort and soft candlelight. He gazed out the village at rest, the lights still glowing, the truth of continuity of care. One flame ended, and another remained, watching, guarding, remembering. The night deepened, rolled gentle and vast beyond windows and walls. Osric finally closed his eyes. He rested, with walls warmed by flame, with memory cradled in candlelight, with the promise of dawn tucked close beneath linen sheets. Let the night hold him, knowing the lights would last, the story would endure, and his promise would glow beyond sleep. No, there's no rush now, only quiet. It only warmth, only flame remembering. Close your eyes now. Feel the warmth across your chest like the soft wool of a well-loved cloak. The hush around you is gentle. Still, breath held by the world, waiting for a story to unfold. Our tale continues in the quiet hours just before dawn. The lantern still burned softly in the lanes outside, but inside the lantern keeper's cottage something was shifting. Not loudly, not sharply, but the way embers shift under ash. With purpose hidden inside silence, Osric lay wrapped in his blanket of homespun, his breathing slow, like a tide brushing a moonlit shore. The cottage had become a cradle for dreaming, and dream he did. In this dream he was young again, not back in years, but in spirit. His back straightened, knees sure, his lantern held high like a promise. He walked a road of cobbled light, each stone beneath his feet softly aglow with golden memory. The path led through places long gone, past the bakery where flour once drifted like snow from open doors, past the carpenter's shop where wood shavings curled like ribbons, past the well, whose rope had once felt his childhood fingers. Each place was empty now, yet filled with presence, filled with the warmth of people who'd once stood there, laughing, working, sharing stories over fences and firelight. He passed a house with a blue shutter still swinging gently on one hinge. He remembered that shutter. He had painted it for a widow once, when her husband had passed. A quiet act. A gift no one knew about, but in the dream, the shutter winked at him, as if to say, I remember. He walked on. Soon, the road curved toward the forest's edge. The trees shimmered with a silver light, their leaves turning slowly like old pages in a book. Each branch whispered a name, not aloud, but felt, a whisper in the chest. He passed under them, and they did not disturb his lantern's glow. Instead, the light spread wider like it was being welcomed. A clearing appeared, and in that clearing stood every lantern he had ever lit, lined like sentinels in rows, soft flames, steady flames, each one whispering a different memory, yet all part of the same warmth. And at the center of them all was one lantern he did not recognize. It was shaped of old brass, smooth with age, and inside it flickered a strange color not gold. It's not red, but something between moonlight and memory. Osric approached it. He reached out, and a voice, as soft as sleep itself, spoke behind him. You've kept the light well. He turned. There stood his old mentor, Thomlin, the keeper who trained him when Osric was no more than a boy. Eyes kind, hands folded behind his back. He looked not a day older than the last time Osric saw him, and yet timeless. Osric smiled gently. I only followed what you taught me. Thomlin's eyes twinkled. You did more than follow. You remembered. They stood together in that ring of lights. Osric glanced around. This place. Thomlin nodded. It's where lanterns dream. Osric looked at the strange lantern, the one with the moonlight heart, and that one. He asked. That one belongs to a keeper not yet born, Thomlin said. But it's already burning. Because stories travel forward, too. Osric felt tears touch the edges of his eyes. Not sadness, not joy, just fullness. A knowing. He closed his eyes just for a breath, and when he opened them again, he was back. The candle still burned. Outside, the sky had begun to lighten. Not yet dawn, but no longer night. A quiet time, a holy time, time between worlds. And Osric, the keeper, the dreamer, the flame-bearer, is at peace. Breathe softly now. You are not alone. The world is quiet, but it remembers. The paths you walk, the kindness you give, the lights you tend in others, they live on. Even in sleep, even in silence. And the lantern you carry? It glows right here inside you. The early light had not yet fully arrived, but it stirred. In faint blue-gray ribbons behind the hills, just enough to outline the world in a softer shape, Osric stood once again, drawn from his dream by that subtle pull all keepers know, a whisper from the waking world. And though the candle near the hearth still flickered warmly, his eyes shifted toward the bell tower. Every seventh day, Osric climbed its winding stairs. It's not because he had to, but because he always had. It was a ritual older than memory. One he had inherited, and one perhaps he would someday pass on. He took a small satchel inside, a scrap of oiled cloth, a tiny jar of soot and beeswax, a folded cloth marked with the sigil of the flame, then wrapped himself again in his woolen cloak, stepped out into the sleeping lane. The cobbles were still cool, the world still hushed, even the birds waited. Only the lanterns glowed, soft orbs watching from wooden posts, their glass fogged just slightly with the breath of night. He touched each as he passed, a fingertip against cold iron, a silent thanks. When he reached the bell tower, the great oaken door stood slightly ajar. He smiled. The wood knew him. Inside, the air was thick with time. Stone walls curved around him like the inside of a shell. Dust hung like sleepy mist in narrow beams of light. And high above, the bell waited. He began the climb. The stairs wound tightly, each step worn smooth by centuries of careful feet. Some were etched faintly with names, others with only the gentle polish of use. And as he rose, he could feel it, the pull of the bell. When he reached the top, the wind met him like an old friend. Cool, gentle, awake. He stepped into the bell chamber. The great bell sat still, silent, noble, covered in a light film of dust and old spider silk. But it was not alone. Around the inside edge of the stone walls, names had been carved by lantern keepers long past, some faded, some strong, some circled by little suns. Osric found his name, carved decades ago by his own hand. Next to it, a single notch, his mark. He drew the cloth from his satchel, wiped gently at the dust, ran a fingertip along the names, his breath steady, each movement soft as prayer. Then, as the sun's edge touched the fields, he stepped to the bell rope. He didn't pull it fast. He didn't shout the dawn. He welcomed it. Single chime. Deep, full, round, it rolled across the village like warm milk in a wooden cup. Down the valley, over the roofs, a bell for all sleepers, a bell to bless the hush. After, he stood beside the bell, ran a finger along the weathered metal, and whispered, "Thank you," because it had listened, held stories, marked the ends of days and beginnings, and because it too had kept watch. Down below, a baker's chimney had begun to breathe. Smoke curled like lazy threads into the sky. A shutter creaked open, soft yawns spilled into the air. A rooster called not in a rush, but as a note in the morning song, Osric began his descent. Each step carried care. Each stone remembered him. And when he reached the bottom, he paused again by the door, reached into his satchel one last time, and took a small slip of parchment. On it, a drawing of a lantern. Beneath it, the words, "For the one who walks next, may your light be soft, but steady." He placed it inside the hollow near the door's frame, where someone, someday, might find it. Not today, not tomorrow, but when they needed it most. He stepped into the light. The sky had taken on the blush of new day. Not loud, not bright, but enough. And in that gentle bloom, Osric smiled. The flame would continue, and so would he. Let your breath move gently now. Let your heart rest in the knowing. There is someone who walks the night with care, who places light where darkness waits, who climbs the towers and wipes the dust, so that dawn may arrive with soft footsteps, and so that you can sleep. Let your breathing settle, in and out, soft, even. Feel the embrace of quiet dawn, a promise waiting in stillness. Our story drifts onward. Osric's day moves softly forward, gentle and unhurried. The cottage window glimmers with morning light as he rises, tending small tasks, watering seedlings in a clay pot, sweeping stray embers into the hearth. And wrapping the flannel cloak once more for the evening's walk, his movements as careful as arranging candles, each slow step a mindful note in dawn's soft hymn. Outside, the village hums with early life, the baker kneading dough, the blacksmith's distant hammer, a child's laughter drifting on the air like feathers. But Osric walks lightly, stepping between world and memory, preparing for the next quiet ceremony. As dusk approaches, he gathers oil, matches, and keys, placing them by the door. The memory flame waits on the mantle. It will guide his hand later, as it has every night. He steps outside just as the sun dips, trailing gold across rooftops. Evening edges the sky soft purples, hinting at stars to come. Turning to lantern post 1, he strikes the flint. Small spark, a warm glow. The hush deepens around him. Each lantern lit as a breath, a heartbeat, a promise. Moves thus through the village, through lanes of sighing breeze, cross pathways rustling with twilight leaves, past doorways now dimming their hearths against the coming night. Upon reaching lantern 10, halfway through the journey, Osric pauses. He looks up. Stars sparkle, steady, patient, unwavering. He breathes in their quiet company. Medieval time, watchmen believed the stars spoke of safety and passage, an ancient guidance where lantern light met starlight to point the way. He lets his hand rest on the warm glass, feeling connection across centuries between traveler, keeper, and sky. Midnight deepens and he reaches the outer post. Lantern 19, his final breath of light in this round. He pauses before lighting it. He closes his eyes. He remembers the boy and mother beneath the tree. He remembers their gratitude. Breath in, breath out. Light strikes coal. Lantern flares bright, and something shifts. He sees in that golden halo the shape of many journeys begun, a boy with his lantern, a stranger guided home, a coming dawn. Osric smiles to the night, begins the return walk past rows of posted lights, each flickering in welcome, each answering the journey of the day. Step by step, lantern by lantern, memory by memory. His cloak brushes dueling grass at the edges of the green. Crickets awaken in applause. The night air tastes of cooling earth and ember smoke. At the bench near lantern 18, he rests again. Time not alone. A small bundle appears at his feet. He reaches down. It's the boy's lantern returned, its glass still glowing faintly, the flame still warm. Osric's heart fills. A silent handshake exchanged. He lifts it with reverence and places it on the bench beside the remembrance flame. The lantern seems to nod. He returns to the cottage, opens door slowly, steps inside. The hearth light greets him, soft and familiar. He places the returned lantern beside the memory flame, alongside the basket of bread and flowers. A quiet tableau of village's story captured in light. Osric settles into his chair. Candles glow around him, a circle of care. He glances at the mantle, the trio of light, gift, memory, their warmth intertwined. He breathes. The night has been long, the walk complete, the promise kept. Let your own eyes grow heavy, let your breath rise and fall. Like lantern light pulsing in the hush, feel the comfort of ritual, the gentleness of a guided path, the soft echo of home. And as you drift, remember the lanterns, remember the keeper, and remember the vow that light once lit never truly dims. Ease your world, let your breath slow. Feel the quiet of the night settle around you. Osric's candle now flickered low, casting gentle patterns upon the walls where a quilt of centuries slept in shadow. He lay in bed, the window partly open, the cool night breeze brushing against his cheek like a whispered promise. From the lane below, lantern light drifted. 19 steady flames, each a quiet testament to care and constancy. He smiled in the dark, listening for the soft click of carriage wheels, the muted murmur of villagers at rest. Then, from outside his door, a gentle rap, so soft it felt like a heartbeat. He rose, muscles stretching with age but moved with intention.
Osric
opened the door to find no one, only a small parcel resting upon the threshold, wrapped in cloth the color of moonlight. He picked it up and felt warmth as fragile as dawn's first breath. Oh. Inside lay a single lantern glass pane, etched with a tiny star and a wren perched above it. A gift, a message. He cradled it, so small, so simple, yet glowing with meaning. Might have left it here, a traveler, a child, a mother, grateful for guidance in the dark. Osric pressed the glass to his cheek. He remembered the boy who left with his lantern, and the mother who spoke in soft gratitude. He thought of the orphaned lampposts, and the trust that each flame carried. The lantern glass glowed warmer still, its etched star seeming to pulse like something alive. Osric knew. No one journeys alone under his lights. Each flame was a friend. He rose again, slowly, each step measured, tender. He went to the mantel, where his remembrance flame burned. By its side, he placed the small glass pane, letting the rind of candlelight and the glow of the gift merge softly. It caught fire with warmth, not of flame, but of connection. Outside, the village breathed in whispered dreams, its lamplit avenues embracing each sleeper. Osric stood by the window, hands clasped in gentle peace as midnight deepened into something holy. He let his eyes close, trusting the glow that pulsed in the heart of his lantern circle. He had kept his promise to light the dark, to be a quiet guardian, to remember each face hidden beneath hood or bonnet. And now the village had remembered him. Rest now. Feel the warm pulse of the lantern glow nestle in your chest. Let it steady beat. Lull you deeper toward dreams soft as candlelight. Osric's gift gleams beside the hearth, and beside you as you drift. Let your body sink deeper into rest. Feel your heart beat slow. Imagine the hush of before dawn that wraps you like a soft blanket. A pale glow seeps through the window pane, the first light of morning creeping into the cottage like a gentle visitor. Osric stirs dream, soft and unhurried, the warmth of his bed still holding him even as dawn beckons. He reaches out and returns the lantern glass gift. To the mantle by the remembrance flame, still glowing with that star-etched warmth. Outside, the lanterns continue their silent vigil. Their light folded into daylight, each flame's memory steeped into the stones. Osric rises slowly, the world still wrapped in soft gray light. He moves to the hearth, where ember glow lingers like a dream that never quite fades. He pats the fire alive, and listens to the whisper of wood igniting, a low hum of everyday magic. The cottage is still, yet full of anticipation, waiting for the world to wake. Osric breathes in that hush, not rushing. Every moment is allowed its own breath. From outside he hears it, the low, familiar rumble. Wagons rolling, merchants calling, chickens clucking. The world is beginning again. He steps to the window, gazing out. Lanterns stand quietly along the street, not dark but softened, their duty moving into pause now that dawn has come. He knows his work rests until tomorrow, but tonight the lights will wait beneath shutters and awnings as slumber deepens in an unlit world. Soft footsteps behind him. The first to stir is the baker's daughter, her face gentle in the morning glow. She offers bread from last night's loaf, warm, crusty, comforting. A small kindness passed in silence. Osric smiles faintly, his heart full of quiet thanks. He takes the bread, breathing in the scent of grain and hearth. No words needed, now just stillness, shared between two souls in the soft light of dawn. At the cottage door he pauses, touching the handle, listening to the soft choir of morning life, birds greeting the sky. Soft footsteps on stone, a mug clinking on a doorstep. He steps outside. Lantern left behind tonight, knowing its place is with the sunrise. The air is chilly and bright, full of promise. He walks the cottage path, each step deliberate, gentle. Even the dew on grass seems to breathe with him as he returns to begin anew. Inside, the remembrance flame has quieted, no longer roaring, but resting like a sleeping ember. Osric smiles. He offers a hand to the day. The world is waking, but hearts still turn quietly to candles, stars, lanterns, the soft lights that guide us through dark and dream. Now, drift with the dawn. Let the light cradle you. Feel its warmth breathe into you. Today is new. You are held. You are bright. And as the world breathes around you, so may you drift into restful dreams wrapped in the soft glow of gentle memory. Feel your body melt deeper into comfort, your mind drifting with each soft breath. Imagine the hush of midnight, where unseen things watch peacefully. Late evening falls once more over the village, pulling velvet shadows down cobbled lanes. Osric, stirred by a gentle murmur of memory, rises from his bed long before the lantern call. He dresses in familiar cloak and worn boots, each movement unhurried, a slow dance with time. Outside, the air is crisp, the night soft and waiting. Steps past the lanterns, still dark beneath shutters, a hush in the hush, yet promising their light will return. He walks toward the village square, its lampposts faint silhouettes against a sky dappled with far-off stars. And there, beneath the old elm tree, a figure waits. A woman, small and pale, cradling a battered lantern much like Osric's own, its glass clouded, its flame flickering low. Her eyes meet his welcoming, relieved. "I found this on the lane," she says in a whisper. "It's your lost light." Osric steps forward, his heart softening like melting snow. He kneels beside her, gently taking the battered lantern, its flame sputtering with a gentle sigh. He cups both his hands around it, your breath slow and comforting, like a lullaby reaching into the night. Together, they walk back to the square, where lampposts wait in patient rows. Osric holds the woman's gaze a silent promise. This flame will warm the night again. He finds a spare oil vial and fills the flickering wick. The flame steadies a tiny star reborn. He lights the lampposts, one by one. Soft clicks, gentle flares, each flame breathing life into darkness. The square glows like a pool of ancient light, each lamp a hymn of care. The woman stands behind him, the battered lantern now whole, its glow reflecting in her eyes. Osric whispers, "They remember us all." She smiles, dropping a gentle kiss upon the lantern's roof. "Thank you," she breathes. He returns the lantern to her, but it remains lit. "I will keep this," she says softly. "For nights when stars hide behind clouds," Osric nods, knowing the gift is not just light. It is care, memory, shared hope. He returns home under the glow of 19 lamps, each one humming with warmth. The night no longer dark, but full of quiet companionship. As he crosses the threshold, he carries with him a deeper memory, not of lantern oil or ancient keys, but of simple kindnesses, shared in hush. The fire in the hearth greets him back, an ember of comfort, old and familiar. He lights it, and the cottage glows with gentle life. Snow drifts outside, but within all is warm. He stands there long before the flame, hands relaxed by his sides. You may feel the echo, too, of kindness, lighting the darkest nights. And so, drift with that care. Let the gentle flame in your chest softly guide you down smooth paths of sleep. Let your breath slow. Let your thoughts fade. Feel the quiet bloom within you. Rest your mind. Allow your body to soften. Breathe in the calm. Breathe out every worry. Imagine the soft glow of lantern light weaving warmth through your heart. Morning approaches, though still cloaked in twilight's hush. Osric drifts toward the window's pale glass, where slow dawn brushes sky in dusty rose and silver. The lanterns outside stand as silent sentinels, their glow dimming under steel blue light. He steps barefoot onto the wooden floor, the cottage warm beneath his feet, and crosses to the hearth, extinguishing candles that fulfilled their gentle vigil. Soft embers glow, still embers of care, waiting to spark again come dusk. Osric's eyes sweep familiar corners, the worn rug by the hearth, the shelf of matchwood and oil, the reflection of years spent tending light He breathes in the lavender sage scent, wrapped in steam of morning tea, a ritual of stillness before beginning again. Outside, the village yawns awake. Distant rooster crows low, a sound of home, quietly insistent. Innkeepers stir, shop doors creak open.
What?
Bread is needed. Fresh oats steeped for porridge. Osric gathers his coat and lantern. Not for night yet, but for the ritual of sunrise. He steps outside, cobbles still slick with dew. Lantern light flickers gentle in hand as if still singing a lullaby. He walks once more to the post under the elm, where the woman returned his lantern. The morning mist hugs the post's base, like memory settling at the roots of something old and kind. He kneels, retrieving the lantern, its flame now a quiet ember. He breathes gently, and hands remain steady. A few steps back, the woman appears quiet as the dawn, her presence soft comfort. They stand side by side, to keepers of light at dusk and dawn. She tilts her head. They're waiting, she whispers. The rows of posts lit softly by the rising sun. He nods, their silhouettes framed in early light, each lantern now bridged between night and day. She hands him the smaller lantern, the one from the traveler boy. "It's your next round," she murmurs, warmth shining in her eyes. Osric smiles, heart full as flame. He lifts the lantern high, a gesture carried in hush and hope. She turns back home, leaving Osric to his silent vow. He walks the lantern back home, the early sun painting gold on every duelist stone. Each footstep echoes promise. That night's gentle care will return. His cottage door greets him. He hangs the lantern indoors beside the morning lamp. Inside, the hearth's embers still glow, a new candle lit to greet the day. Osric settles by the fire, tea in hand. Quiet reflections seeping through him, like dawn knitting time to night. Now drift with the promise of routine, of small acts repeated across day and night. Each gentle care building candlelight in hearts. Feel your breath slow, heartbeat steady. As morning warmth settles into your bones, take in a deep breath. Let the warmth of morning rest in your chest. Every muscle softened, every thought drifting. We're safe here, your mind at ease. Hours pass in peaceful quiet, sunlight drifting through delicate curtains, casting gentle patterns over wooden beams. Osric carries out his simple daily tasks, tending the hearth, mending the old bench, pouring tea. Each motion soft and steady, a meditation in shared space and time. As dusk slowly approaches, the sky shifts from honey gold to rose pink, then to deep violet. The village hushes once more, shop shutters closing, hearth fires kindling, lanterns and windows shimmering awake. Osric stands by the doorway, lantern in hand, keys at his belt ready for his final walk under evening's hush. He steps onto dew-kissed cobbles. Each footfall quiet beneath heart's calm drum lantern flame dancing in his steady grasp. He moves methodically, post by post, igniting each lantern with care. Count of 19, 17. 15 at each, he pauses, listens to the soft cracking of glass, smiles as flame leaps in welcome, feels a quiet companionship with each lit light. He pauses again beneath the elm, where the woman stood at sunrise. She sits on the old bench, wrapped in shawl, her gaze gentle on the glowing lanterns. Their eyes meet, no words needed. In shared silence, they offer blessings for the lights to glow. Osric kneels, retrieving the boy's last lantern. He lights it, breath releasing softly, a quiet promise for travelers and dreamers alike. They watch the final lantern awaken, a single flame in the dusk's gentle hush. He joins her on the bench. They share a moment, a breath held together, as the village settles into night's embrace. The lanterns above seem to hum with rhythmic heartbeats, a lullaby for sleepy homes, chorus of soft flames bridging sunset to starlight. She reaches out, touches his hand lightly. A silent gratitude passes between them for care, for light, for gentle constancy. At last, Osric rises. The round is complete. 19 lanterns aglow, 19 beacons holding back the dark. He turns, gaze lifted to distant stars, to the promise of night's watch, to the hymn of ember and flame. With steady steps, he makes his way home. Lantern flame guiding him back, keys whispering against his belt. Inside his warm cottage, he hangs the lantern beside the hearth. Fires rekindle with welcoming glow. A simple supper waits, a A chair is drawn. The window left open just a crack, so he might remember the rustle of night outside. He sits, breathes deep, eyes drift closed. Tonight, remember this. Each lantern, a soft heartbeat in the dark. Each flame, a reminder that someone cares. Each path lit a small mercy in the hush of night. Hold that warmth with you. Let every breath be a gentle light. Let every heartbeat echo care. Allow your thoughts to drift. Let warmth and gratitude settle in your bones. Your world safe. Your breath steady. Your heart carried on ember-soft promise. Rest now. The lights will glow. You are not alone. Good night, dear listener.